What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. A couple weeks back I did a video about Dana White's Power Slap League. Why do I hate Dana White's Slap League? This is at the end of the day asking people to get CTE, and it got a lot of attention and people started talking about, is this like a legitimate sport? Is this something that should be promoted? And a lot of people in the comments had a lot of negative views on it, and including myself, I had some concerns about it. So today I want to be joined by someone that's actually on the show to give us a better perspective of like what's going on. Please welcome Vernon Cathey to the show. Vernon, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Thank you for coming on. Like I said, first of all, before we get into the actual video, I want to just ask, like, how did you even get into like this whole like slap competition? Like, where did this even start? Like, how do you get into something like that?
Well, I used to be a professional fighter, and I knew some people. They reached out to me, and one thing led to another, and I accepted it because I'm willing to work with good people, and the UFC, they're great people. So I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it.
And who exactly like reached out to you? Was it like the UFC or whatever's team?
It was the production company.
Yeah,
it was the production company that made The Ultimate Fighter. They're the ones putting it on, so they're doing the preliminary stuff. So it was them.
Oh, well, let's get into the actual video here. So obviously, like, I think a lot of people's like concerns are like, there's an argument people say, I see in the comments, that this isn't like a real sport, that there's no technique. I'm just wondering, can you explain the actual technique? Because like I said in my video, that there is actual like technique to it. I know what like rolling the slaps. I don't really know exactly what like the technique is. Can you like explain to everybody that like doesn't know like what the technique might be?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple techniques on, like you said, rolling to slap. I mean, being prepared to move as you're getting hit. There's some stuff you can do with your mouth. You can kind of like have some air in there, but in general, on taking the hit, you just have to be a strong guy, a guy that can take a hit. I mean, it's just like MMA. I mean, there's guys that don't have chin and they don't go very far. I mean, and on the striking aspect, you got to keep your feet planted. You can't jump. You can't hop. You can't club them. And that clubbing is like when you're pretty much open palm, and it's like a push, more like a hook than a slap. So, I mean, there's a little bit to it.
And yeah, I know that there's a lot of like rules, and know that because of the Nevada State Athletic Commissioner putting in and making this like a legit with rules and weigh-ins and all of that. Like, how has it been? I don't know if you've done like other slap competitions or this is like your first one. Like, is it like, have you done like other slap competition, or is this like the only one?
This is the only one, but this is the only one I've done for an organization. There's the organization Slap Fight. JT Tully, me and him have become friends over this process. He runs that league. I'm going to be doing something for them down in Oklahoma soon. So as an athlete in the sport, I'm relatively new, and I'm very fortunate that they picked me.
And I was gonna say, like, how does it feel like with all the referees? I know like there's actual like MMA referees in there. Like how does it feel? Like going into the whole like atmosphere?
Oh, it's great. The UFC does a great job of making us feel welcome. They're doing the best they can with a new sport. Everyone's like, they're judging us so hard because the UFC is so great right now. I mean, if you look at UFC 1 compared to UFC 282. Are you going to tell me that that's the same sport?
Yeah, I know Dana White has talked about maybe next season bringing in some sort of belts. And I'm just curious, like you said, you just touched on it. A lot of people are criticizing the sport. What would you say is the biggest misconception people make about the sport?
There are going to be a lot of knockouts. People are always worried about brain injury. But what I tell people is, if you're unwilling to do it, I see your concern. I'm a professional athlete. I've competed in the Highland Games, powerlifting. I've done all sorts of stuff. And if you watch videos on weight cutting, that is like the biggest thing people talk about in MMA is like the weight cut. Well, every sport that is physical has a downside. There's no way getting around it. Look what happened in the NFL the other day. I mean, that's a horrible thing that happened. But if you don't step on that field and understand that this could happen to you, you have to be prepared. So I understand people's concerns. Do I see that it's something that needs to be taken to the level that they're saying it is? Like, oh, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. I mean, millions of people die a year around the world in car accidents. And are we on horse and buggies now?
I think a lot of people's concern too is like the lack of defense in a way. Like, I know you said you could roll with it. I think that's like what a lot of people say. But it's definitely complicated because when I made the video, I definitely was referring like. Honestly, like, I didn't even think about anybody on there, and I felt like when you DM me and all that, like I felt like I was like, man, I wasn't even considering. Like, I didn't at all mean to like insult anybody that was on the show or any like athletes that are on the show, because obviously like I wouldn't be able to do that. Like, I respect like going on there, but like it, I was more talking about like the promotion and like the whole idea of doing that. And I feel like, I mean, I still stick by like
I understand.
I understand that like it might be like a bad look for the UFC because, like, as you said, like a lot of people are looking bad on it. But at all, like you said, you touched on like the CTE stuff and, you know, the brain injury stuff. Do you feel like the UFC and like the whole company is doing anything to like help with that? Like, do you feel like there's like doctors there, or like what steps do you feel like they're doing to prevent it?
Okay, like I said, I've done a lot of sports. I've never been with an organization that does so many medical tests. I'm talking every time I compete, every single time I get EKGs, I get CAT scans. I mean, they've spent so much money on me as an athlete to make sure that I'm a healthy athlete that can compete is amazing. Dana White goes above and beyond to make sure that everything is healthy for you. That being said, we all as competitors, we know what we're doing. We know what we're getting into. And if you didn't, you shouldn't be here. And if after your first fight, you don't want to do it again, that's fine. You know, there's plenty of people that retire from a sport after they're like, nope, never doing it again. And that's in athletes that are just doing, you know, like wakeboarding or anything like that. But UFC as a whole and Power Slap, Frank, Dana, Hunter, all of them have done the best that they can to make sure that we are healthy, and they feel that doctors feel that we are a legit athlete to do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting to hear about the doctor. I know I've heard that before from, you know, specifically like UFC fighters, that they test a lot, and good to hear. And I think that was a lot of people's concern. And speaking of concern, like, was there anybody like maybe like close to you, like friends, family, whatever, that heard that you were doing this, was like, this is a bad idea? Because like you said, there's a lot of hate on, or a lot of like people that think it's bad, like what, like the slap competition and things like that.
Yeah, there's plenty of people that have concerns, and you know, I'm happy for them. Without people having concerns, we don't fix problems. But in this sport and in sports, there's only a certain level of concern that should affect the sport. Now, if we're blindly thrown into this and we are just like, hey, we're going to tell you what to do, 30 minutes, go out there and do it. No, I mean, this was months of work, you know, hours of people doing this, and we were all understanding what was happening. And, you know, if we had any concern whatsoever, we didn't want to do it, we didn't have to do it. No one drug us out there to do it. And multiple times they're just like, hey, you know, if you want to do it, we're willing to do it. So the concern level of people outside the sport, yeah, it's pretty big. But also I feel that those are the same people that wouldn't go skydiving, you know, they wouldn't go bungee jumping. You know, there's certain people that can't get over a fear. And I think those are a lot of the people that have the biggest concern about what's going on. And yeah, the CTE, it's a big deal. It's always going to be a big deal. I mean, soccer players get it. I mean, cheerleaders. You ever seen a cheerleader get thrown in the air and they miss and they slam on a gym floor? That's harder than I could ever hit anybody. And we're still got cheerleaders.
You bring up a lot of good points. Like, I agree. Like, I think a lot of the people, too, that, criticize the slap league are also the people that go crazy for the, the knockouts and stuff like that. So I totally get, like, what you mean. But also, like, I meant to say, like, is there anybody that, like, try to prevent you from doing this? Was like, hey, like, this isn't a good idea. Like, we see it all the time with fighting. Like, family members be like, oh, that's a bad idea. Don't do this. Was there anybody that tried to stand in your way, like, personally?
No. My family's been supportive of me my whole life, in any aspect. Anything. I did the Highland Games. My back hurts from that. Powerlifting, there's multiple guys that rip their biceps. My family is a great family that lets you go as far as you can, and they're going to express their concern. Now, if I was doing drugs, I was an abusive person, an alcoholic, they'd step in. But they understand that this is a sport, and I love competing. So they just brought up their concerns, and they're like, hey, good luck. We wish you the best of luck, and I hope everything goes well.
Yeah, well, like thank you. Like I said, thank you for coming on. I feel like me and I think everyone watching definitely will gain a new perspective on the sport. The show premieres January 11th. This is a thing where it's like pre-taped, right? Like everything's pre-taped. It's not live.
Yeah, we were filmed over like 20 days, kind of like The Ultimate Fighter. There's going to be some editing. We don't know what exactly is going to go on. But the production crew, great people. Everything they did is great. The fights, are great fights. There's going to be knockouts. There's going to be people that go 3 rounds. My biggest thing is I want people to not be so judgy and not to be on such a cancel culture that they just, because they don't like it, we got to end it.
I was just going to ask final question. Speaking of which, obviously I'm sure that there's a whole like scandal with Dana White and everything, and there's some people concerned that, hey, maybe this power slap thing will be like canceled, which I hope it doesn't happen, like you said, because it doesn't just, the people don't understand that it doesn't just affect Dana White, like it affects everyone that competed, everybody on the staff, like everybody just basically wasted 20 days. So I hope that doesn't happen, no matter what I think of it. But have you heard anything about it being like canceled because of the whole scandal with Dana White and the whole thing with his wife, or did you hear anything else?
Of of course, people have reached out to me, in production and stuff like that. And my biggest deal is about that is Dana White. Dana White is a great man. Okay, he had an incident that hundreds of thousands of people across America have, and his wife is great, his family's great. The biggest thing that I take away from this is the concern of people that they're just worried about what he did and not how he's being a great person. His wife, said it's totally out of character, which I believe it. Like, I've met the guy, he's a great guy. His family's great. Now, for someone to end something over an incident like that is crazy to me, because you could fill up a page with UFC fighters that have been in domestic violence, NFL fighters that have been domestic violence, basketball players, baseball players, every sport it happens. Now, if Dana White would have pushed her, punched her, anything but a slap, we wouldn't even be talking about this. He would just be like, I can't believe he did that. And that being said, he didn't condone it. He is straight up admitting it, and he is taking it like a man, which he is the greatest guy I know. So I hope everyone understands that people have issues in their family, things happen, and you need to help a man get through it. You don't need to dig a guy down. You need to help him get through it. You need to help people. So that's what I want to say about that.
Like I said, I would hate to see, you and the many other competitors, like the hard work you guys put in for 20 days, just not pay off. So obviously the show comes out January 11th. Do you know if you're going to be on the first episode, or is this like, or are you on every episode? I'm not sure like how it works, the show.
I'll probably be on every episode. And then there's multiple fights and stuff like that. It's a lot of editing. Like no one's going to know except the producers what's going to happen. But I want people to tune in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, thank you for coming on. I gained a lot more perspective, and I think you brought a lot of people in on the insights of it. And I think a lot of people weren't considering, including myself, like the actual athletes that are in there. And I didn't mean to come off at all disrespectful. I hope I didn't in the video at all. Like I said, at the end of the day, I was always just concerned about fighter health. It wasn't like I cared all this. I never said like, oh, this is boring. Obviously I think, I said in my video, it's extremely entertaining, and that's why it's so popular, but I didn't mean to come off at all disrespectful. Just was concerned about the health, but I'm glad you shed some light on, what it's actually like to be in there.
Yeah. And I'd like to say one last thing. Thank you for having me on. It was great. Like I said, everyone needs to share opinions. We need to go back and forth. And then the other thing is I'd like people to stop cutting people down. When they're at a time of heartache, or, something bad has happened to them, or they've done something wrong, people need to be, concerned about helping them get through this. Let's not destroy someone. Let's help them. So with that being said, I hope everyone had a great new year. Everything's going great, and I appreciate being on your show.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, when you DM me, I thought, oh my God, this is a great idea, and I would love to learn more and give people better perspectives. Like I said, thank you so much for coming on. Happy New Year. And yeah, guys, I'll see you guys later.
All right. Thank you, man.